Yeah, everybody should be in a very serious accumulation stage right now because obviously it's pre-bull, and this is probably going to be your last couple months to amass any additional crypto, especially altcoins on the Pulsechain network where you're going to see the most gains. I think the biggest resistance to this particular market, or the barrier to entry for anybody that's coming in, we need new adoption, we need new money. To say that we don't need VC money or anything like that's absurd. We need any money we can get that's legal, free and clear of non-criminal origin, of course.
Um, I've heard some crazy. Well, I won't even call it crazy because maybe I'm the crazy one, but I've heard some amazing stories or conspiracies, even maybe about Richard Hart and his connections to people. If you look at the tweet I pinned above from Bretep, the obviously like the lead dev of Pulsechain, right? He's tweeting to Donald Trump and Elon Musk. He is talking about like an ambassador to Finland because I think Nuclear Herbs was saying something, and but basically he's implying that his teams has reached out to them before. I think that's some very interesting stuff. I mean, that was 5 hours ago, and so we talk about like onboarding. I mean, we obviously know that Richard streaming would be a big part of that. But imagine if he was, I don't know, somehow connected to these guys, and I don't know, maybe appointed to some real responsibility.
Richard has
Uh,
collaborated with Elon Musk before.
oh, there we go. That was the
What?
bomb I wanted to hear. I didn't know that, but yeah, there we go. There we go.
They've exchanged some tweets, and I think there was some minor discussions going on. Obviously, they have a commonality with their legal representation. They both have they both retained murder row, as we call them. Um, there's there's a little more going on than I think people are aware of.
Let's go. Boy, if y'all didn't
This
hear that, man, that's some of the most bullish I've heard in a long time. Yep, I blanked myself out on the cuss word. So, uh,
Steve, do you not?
KG,
Yeah, Steve, do you not remember when Elon Musk put out a text or a tweet about Hex?
I remember that. I also remember Donald Trump Jr., I believe, dropped getting his Twitter quote unquote hacked or something, maybe. I don't remember. Can't remember, but he dropped a tweet as well on some stuff that was pretty crazy. But no, I do remember that now that we're bringing it up. And I think to me, like, that's some of the most bullish stuff I could think of about Pulse Chain. And those kind of connections, I mean, you saw how much Richard was tweeting around this election, right? Like anybody paying attention saw how serious he was taking it.
Hey, Steve, I'm sorry to cut you off. Jen
No,
just
go
told
ahead.
me what she read or remembered about it. I'll let her tell you.
Let's go.
Yeah, it was a tweet under the was it Trump Donald Trump Jr.'s account, and it said something along the lines of if Trump wins the presidency, he was going to take over the SEC and free Richard Hart.
what?
That's what the tweet
That's
said.
real? It's not. It's not. That's legit.
I don't know. I'm trying to dig into it a little bit more, but I have seen it. Like,
Um,
I guess it was posted a while ago, and it's now starting to resurface again, just because of the hearing and because Trump won.
AG found it right here.
You did okay.
Hexologist retweeted it. Let's see. Richard Hart is innocent. When I become president, I'm going to burn the SEC at Richard Hart. Yeah, there you go. You're on point there.
Okay, guys, and guys and gals, can we use our epigenetics? Can we use our consciousness? Can we go past the reptilian, past the mammalian? Can we get into that neocortex and really conduct some electromagnetic energy together as a community? Can we please unite behind the founder's vision with all the top whales in alignment and all the people down below just stoking on the big dogs working in alignment on a big plan that took a long time to come together? Like, I would love
I
to
well,
be a part of that. If I can help in any way, let
yeah.
me
I
know.
mean, and I'm. Oh Lord, here we go. I think between my position in the original SAC, if between Pulse Chain and Pulsex, I mean, my team put in about 80 million total, and if you look at Godwale, when he put his in, he's at what, 30 to 60 million. So I think the closest third position was 9 or 19 million. We'd have to just pull up the stats, and I'm sure we can. But we're already pretty much aligned with what's going on. he hasn't liquidated his positions that I'm aware of, unless y'all know something I don't. And I know that regardless of what anybody has said on social media, and I've listened, I've seen the comments, I've seen the nickname Rectum, Rishel, I've seen it all. I've read a little bit. I could care less. I haven't sold a single Pulsex or a Pulsechain, not one. So we're pretty much already there as far as that goes. And we've my team's put tens of millions into validators and liquidity pools, and we're playing the waiting game. We're expecting a 250x plus from this network. We're going nowhere.
Yeah,
I haven't heard talk like that in a long time. Please continue. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, it was a breath of fresh
Rackham,
air.
if you had to, feel free to plead the fifth. If you had to put a general time estimation on that 250x, what number would you throw at a wall and see if it
16 months.
stuck? 16 months.
Yeah, but so much has come together we could not have predicted. We now have JD Vance, we have Trump, we have Elon, we have Rogan power circuiting. We have
Do you
heavy
think
legislation.
that
We
we
have a
see
connected tweet
any of that
between that.
positive price act? We're seeing some, obviously, the markets seems to be overall bullish with the results of the election, but are we on that 250x trajectory at this time, or do you think there's some other catalyst event that needs to occur?
No, I think it's already started the minute Trump took office. That's again, if I'm allowed to render this opinion, right? If you can just respect it as an opinion, that process, the ascension is already starting. I think we're at the last chance to really get the pricing at this level on the various tokenomics we're looking at: Pulsex, Pulsechain, PLS, PLSX. And I think that and Steve will attest to this because Steve's educated me quite a bit. Steve's my counterbalance and my sounding block. Him and I talk every day, every other day on our battle plan, our strategy, where we're going, where the market's going, who the bad actors are, who's the up and coming disruptive stuff that's coming out, what's emerging. And that's for y'all that don't know, and I'm not kissing his butt because he can kiss my butt, but Scuba Steve is Scuba Steve is an excellent reference. He just digs and digs and digs and digs, to find out information. So I think we're at the point now to where we've got a month or two left where just before January, where it's starting the change. And hold me to it if you want to. Keep an eye on the market. We'll watch the charts and see if I'm right or wrong. But over the course of 2025, it's pretty much game over.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
And it makes me feel like the foundation that was laid to this network happened with purpose. It happened with precision. And a lot of people were onboarded that were new and had never been through a bear. I was a new corner when I showed up. I was at the tip of the bull at the sack. Boom, just tore, tanking down, multiple year bear. Then I find out, hey, this is standard, bro. 4-year Bitcoin cycle. Gee, chill out. It's like no one knows that when they start. You have to have experience. So there is so much combined experience on this chain, and I want everyone to know the genesis. It has to do with Bitcoin and cutting edge emerging minds that are excited by what is around the corner that the next guy hasn't caught on to yet. That is the genesis of this chain. It's Bitcoin OGs who thought, let's make a better hex. And it transformed into its own chain from the ETH fees and a whole lot of game theory that not everyone knows about. And we've all learned from. And some of the people here on this stream were a part of the Genesis think tank that created this network that we're all a part of. And I just want to, from the bottom of my heart, say thank you. I appreciate being here and participate in it. And I love working together with people and making this place the best it possibly can be. It's truly my passion. Thank you.
Good to see you back, Lip.
You always get me lit, bro.
Hence the name.
Because listen, our epigenetics, if we connect our consciousness and stop any type of mentality that is like, we can't do it, we're not, no. If we just align, do you guys remember when we launched and I told everyone, Operation Tag Your Tweets, and everyone started tagging Pulsex. We had 2 million, 4 million. I have the screenshots. We ended up with 4 million trending on Twitter. So if our community can band together with some hashtags, I would just love to bring that vibe back. And I'm not the end all be all. I just have a small little vibe that I bring. And now there's so many other people. I just want to share all that good energy with everyone. And the fact that we have a founder who's a Bitcoin OG, who's attracted people like Rack, who set up the think tank to launch the thing. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but in my research, that whole Zen debacle, that was calculated. That was on purpose. That was a network test at the highest level. Why would that happen? That would happen because when you put this much on the line, you need to make sure it's tested properly. And I understand things that didn't look awesome in hindsight. I'm like, oh my God, we had to do that. We needed to know what would happen in that situation. So I have been humbled. I understand there are big dogs holding the line here, and the bear made it hard for new people to stick around through what came up. And on the verge and precipice of this new bull, my biggest focus is getting the community, whoever it is, I don't care. If you're like me, you don't like me, I don't care. Find the best people we can connect with and share that love again. So thank you so much. This is the most exciting news I've heard in a long time, and I think we've all earned it.
Yeah,
Me
no, and
too.
and 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 there's a lot of room for future development, and it's. I mean, I've seen the tweets and I've seen the numbers and I've seen people's comments. It's not a surprise. I mean, for every 30x we do, it's. I mean, Lit, Steve, I mean, for every 30x we do, I clear about $1 billion. So that goes a long way into liquidity pool or a validation, a whole bunch of validation pools to earn interest to port back into new and upcoming members that have new projects that let me know about what they're doing. We can start funding those the programs or expand
Wow.
existing programs even further. Well, think about it. How in the world would anybody with any common sense, say we do a 200x, which is like it's seven times, that's $6-7 billion. Nobody in their right mind would ever be. Steve will tell you, you would never be able to get that money off the network. It would take
Correct.
years, and you're a fool if you don't reinvest in the community and reinvest in new projects. So y'all heard me say it first. So if you ever hear anything contrary that Rackham says or does, it's bullcrap.
I mean, yeah, that's. Thank you for that, Rack. I agree. I mean, I know.
There are very good individuals in this space, and at the end of the day, there's going to be much more the transpire on this, but just understand, be safe, understand the circumstances that you guys are in, and ultimately the next like year and a half is going to be a beautiful measure. Even if you think the SEC is going to have a hindrance, don't even think about that. Look at the ETH price and then ultimately look at Pulse,
Yeah, I agree with
because
you.
if ETH goes up, Pulse is going to go up as well.
100%. And
So as we think about all these exits that we're gonna make, which we're gonna make it, we're gonna be there. We're gonna be people here in the spaces are gonna be part of probably the 10 percentiles of the rich people in the world. This is just a fact. Yeah, my family is blessed. I'm happy. My kids, they feel the same way too. But what I really want to suggest is that, as we talk about all these and all our blessings being abundant and everything, please, we should, look forward to how we're going to use this position God has given us, this money God has given us to make other people's life better.
but I'll also say that like Richard Hart, he I don't know that he's a man of that kind of faith, but I'm not going to say one way or the other. But I have heard him give plenty of advice on how to help your fellow man. So, a lot of people might have only seen Richard through his, started following him through his Louis Vuitton days or things like that, and then not seen him at all, maybe at all, right? Like a lot of people came onto Pulsechain and have never seen Richard Hart stream live, which is, I mean, it blows my mind, to be honest, to think
Wow.
about that. But you go before all that, I mean, you look at some of his videos like that got people following him, and it was very much so about helping each other and longevity and all these things that were to help each other, and to that point, can Daniel, like, what's the point of it if you're not going to turn around and I mean, I've heard this saying that you spend the first third of your life figuring out how to make money, the second third making it, and the third giving it away. And I mean, that is definitely the path I feel like I'm headed on. Maybe I can even just get halfway through and start giving it away. But and I think it's a constant thing. To your point, you can't just say you're going to do it one day when you get there. You got to do it now, and you got to be doing this stuff or living it in the now, regardless of how much you have. So I'm with you 100%, King Daniel. I know Rackham 100% lives by that kind of lifestyle, and Brinson, and I imagine many others. If we're here following Richard Hart and or God, right? So I'm not saying
Th-
Richard Hart's God. I'm saying the Creator,
yeah, of
our
course.
God.
Thank you, bro. I just want to say thank you for what you said, sir. I think that brought up a huge point, and I'd like to frame this for this community as best I can and get your guys' input. We have a chance to create a narrative that's authentic and genuine, and we can craft it with power, and we can have it be a pulse that runs through the community and is always goes back to that foundation. And I want to go back to the genesis of this chain, where when you're growing adoption, I really truly think Richard Hart was like, I'm going to do the absolute best I possibly can. And what we saw, in my opinion, we saw a huge donation to the Sens Foundation. He got his community to donate $27 million. That's badass. I don't think it translated the way everyone wanted, and we saw a different side. We saw the opposite. We saw the flash and the bang. At the end of the day, we're here now. And I'm thinking to myself, what's the best move? How do we cohesively unite this community with power and impulse from the beginning of like, this is the place I want to be. This is fun. These people are rad. They're cool outside of crypto. I freaking call that guy going home from work. And I'm like, what's up, bro? What are you doing? Like, this is what we have here. The framing I see is a genesis story of a founder who created Freedom Chain. Hear me out. Trump, Vance, Elon, the whole country, the whole movement, crypto under attack, the SEC court case, the privacy, security, the way this tech was designed, the think tank it came from, the players involved. This is as OG Bitcoin as it gets. This is the genesis of crypto. These are ETH Genesis whales. These are the top people in this game, whether people realize it or not. This is what this is. So when I realize I was ignorant to the bigger picture, I'm now starting to see the bigger picture, and I recognize we have a gap. And that gap is, what is the narrative we are going to use as a community? Because we have Superman, and are we all comfortable being Batman? Genuine, honest question. Can you, as a man, yield and let Richard Hart be the boss of this chain and absolutely crush it for his own coin? Or is it, oh, I need to create hundreds and thousands of cells all over that are on all these different chains that funnel back to Pulsechain? Does it, you see my question? We have options, and I want it to be authentic and genuine. How do you guys see the most inspiring narrative that's actually the truth?
I don't think there's an incubation problem. I think there's a lot of bright developers on the Pulse Chain network. I think there's some brilliant minds on it. I don't see that being an RTM. I see the additional, I think the barrier to entry for us is just mass adoption. The tech will come. It will, the more adoption that occurs, the more money that comes into the network, the more the innovators show up. I mean, how many developers are there on the Ethereum network right now that, all they need is a bump or a push to come over here? They've already got the talent and the skill sets to develop stuff. I mean, Coach, look at you. Look at obviously KG. I mean, we've learned a tremendous amount. I'm not even aware of the projects because I've been out of the pocket for a year and a half to 2 years dealing with personal stuff. But I'm coming up to speed very, very rapidly. And in just 2-3 days, just researching, I don't see a development issue. I see an adoption issue with public awareness of the Pulse Chain network.
That goes back to my original framing of like, what is the outbound messaging at this point in time for this community? What is the overarching foundation message that we want new people to hear to onboard them in, so that Rackham can have, so we can address what you said, Rack? What do you guys think?
It's funny you're asking that. We were talking about. we've had the same conversation in multiple spaces over the last couple months, and that was what we were joking around about, that we are a community takeover chain because our founder had been MIA for so long. But obviously, he started tweeting lately. This was a couple months ago. But I actually thought that was a pretty funny one when we were talking about, because I mean we are right, like we've taken over. We're the community's building. We're all over there. At the same time, though, I mean our founder. You know, what other chain has a founder that built the chain, built the primary DEX, and the bridge, right? So I mean, there's some powerful things going on here. I think we could take multiple angles on, but it is tough. You know, I mean, he obviously promoted freedom of speech and I think freedom of movement, or if I remember correctly. So those are obviously narratives, and that's what you do. You need a good narrative in this game. I think
Oh, that's it.
I think we
That's
got a
it.
few, but I'll
You
let other
just nailed
people.
it, Steve. I don't mean to cut you off, but you just nailed it. It's all the narrative's already there, you guys. It's freedom of speech and freedom of movement, which ties into exactly where we're at politically. Couldn't even be better. It's wrapped up with a red ribbon.
And I mean, if he has ties, not if he has ties, he has ties. If those ties are used, and I mean, who knows what consulting may Richard do for crypto for
You
America at this point too.
you couldn't have wrote
It's
a
nuts.
better story. Actually, the damn narrative's right there. It is. It's right there. It's a sacrifice for freedom.
Yeah, but dude, any network can claim that. That's not anything that's
Yeah,
monumentous. What it's going to come down to is this. Richard's going. Here's my prediction. He's going to put the money in the OA to work. He'll do it in such a way that there's a proof of proceeds. There's no ABL. He'll absolutely be able to put the aggregate to work without being accused of wash trading or money laundering via the SEC, and he won't violate any jurisdictional laws because he's going to position himself where he lives accordingly. That's how this is going to go down.
I'm
So,
not going to argue with that. But go
what is
ahead,
the
someone
what is
else.
the best way to prepare for that and support that?
No, right now, you're in a holding pattern. We're waiting for the SEC to conclude its investigation or to be dismissed. We are going to continue to wait on that. It's inevitable. It's going to happen, and he's most likely going to beat the SEC. He's going to probably win. Beyond that, we're in a growth curve right now. We're in a pre-bull run. The altcoin season is coming. My advice to everybody listening is do your research on the various altcoins and offerings that are out there presently on the Pulsechain network. Make your move, get into a couple altcoins or expand your positions, whatever it is that you feel led to do. Capitalize on that during the bull run, and then paradigm into the other network of your choosing, whether it be Bitcoin, Ethereum, diversifying further into Pulse Chain. I leave that to you. But for right now, the biggest thing is there's already developers on Pulse Chain. There's already new innovators coming to Pulse Chain Network. And all we're really waiting on is the bull season. So for right now, take advantage of it because he's got to get through this SEC case before anything else, transpires.
Thank you for saying that. I, for one, was a part of hearing a lot of conspiracies about our founder that he was no longer with us. I don't know if any of you heard that, but I heard that he literally got murked and the green screen, the whole thing. When I hear this, it sounds like the exact opposite. It sounds like he's calmly been waiting in the wings, watching everything, continuing the strategy, developments. There's plans we don't even know about. There's executions and timings we don't know about, but the pieces are all there. I want to put them together as best I can, and I recognize I'm just a small piece, but I want to make my piece the best I can.
Let me
And
ask you this. Let me ask you this question, Lid, if I may.
yeah,
How many times have we heard what would $5 or $10 million do if it was injected into the market cap of, say, Pulsex? If you put 5 or 10 million into it and bought up the supply, what would that do for the price? I'm going to go step by step. What would that do?
break it down for everyone here. What I understand so far, and I'm going to ask for anyone else technical to jump in so that people get a clear picture. When you buy Pulse X, it was designed as an interchangeable product and it had a buy and burn. So the way it's routed, it goes around and buys up a supply and then takes supply off the market. So it has the chance to compound, which is why K4K blew up. He fully broke down the expansion possibilities of Pulsex, but it was all, if you guys remember his videos, it was all dependent on one thing: volume. And that's what Rack's talking about. What's going to happen to Pulsex when that volume kicks in? I predict the original plan that the founders laid in that badass think tank of top G's is going to come to fruition. And
Okay, but hold on, Lit. You're getting ahead of yourself. But you've heard about what happens if you put $2 to $5 million into Pulsex. If somebody comes in and buys 5, 10, $20 million worth, and it goes through the buying, it gets pulled off the market, it goes through a burn function, but it's now off the market. What's going to happen to the price? That's the first part I need answered.
well, hopefully it's up and to the right as it's designed, because we're taking it's the De Beer model, the less supply available with the buy pressure coming expounds, and that's exactly what we see with every
Can I can I
successful.
can I answer this, Rackham?
Go.
Oh, please do, sir.
So if that's the case, if it just goes to PulseX, we have the intake of Hart's law as well. So in the ratios in the V3 V1 pools, it's going to go up a lot. So also
A whole lot.
a whole lot. So it's not going to affect just the PulseX price. It's going to affect the Pulse price. It's going to affect the ink price. It's going to affect the E-hex, the
Okay,
P-hex.
hold that. I'm cutting
Okay.
you off on purpose.
It's
Okay.
okay.
Now, I know what liquidity pools earn because I'm in liquidity pools, and I know what validators earn because I've got thousands of validators, right? But it's I'm not going to get into how much I've got in there. It's nowhere near hundreds of millions, nowhere near it. And yet I know what the interest bearing is and how much it compounds out per month when you do that. Well, what happens when you take all that ETH that's in the OA and you put it on an ETH network running validators and liquidity pools? I guarantee you, you don't want to know how much you're making because it's in the double, if not triple digits annually. Listen to what I'm saying. That's just an Ethereum. We won't get into DAI and everything else. When there's $1 billion in a fund and you have access to it in a way to where the principal's never touched, but you can earn interest bearing on it to the tune of tens of millions per month, you're going to nuke the price. It's going to go parabolic and it's going to stay there because he's going to buy it right off you guys and he's never going to let you back in.
Well, 100%. And once that actually happens, it's the same kind of conversation that Richard has been talking about, the same exact thing that I've been talking about in my streams. It's just like once Pulse Chain gets reevaluated in the concept of the price of the whole Pulse Chain network, it's like see you later. And once,
Oh, it's going to
oh
be game
yeah,
over. It's going
beautiful.
to be over.
And then if individuals wanted to take profits, guess what happens in the next month, and then the next month, and then the next month, and then the
Hey,
next month, and then
Steve,
the
could you
next
imagine
month.
what the R bots would do if they were funded with tens of millions of dollars? Could you imagine?
Like,
People don't realize what's coming. They have no clue.
like honestly, bro, like I've been preaching this since January. I've been preaching this since January of last year. And then ultimately, like if you really think about it, like especially with the altcoins that have product market fit, like how much liquidity are they gonna actually have in this network? So what I'm saying to people here in this room, find the alts on Pulse Chain that have product market fit if you want to be a degenerate on that sense. But like, what do you think is going to happen to Pulse Chain, especially if Ethereum goes 10 to about $12,000 a coin? And you ultimately know that the Ethereum address that bought into Ethereum at the top of Ethereum what could possibly happen to
Yeah,
Pulsechain?
I'm sure. I'm, I'm sure if
It
you look back at when
exactly.
the Titanic sank and there wasn't enough boats for people, they figured out real quickly that there's a supply and a demand, isn't there?
Exactly. So it's like for all the individuals that want to diverse their money somewhere else in the next year, the year and a half, you're honestly, I'm gonna say you're gonna regret it, 100%, 100%.
Yeah, I would say within the next 3 to 4 months, you're never going to get Pulsex and Pulsechain at these prices again. It'll be a thing of the past. It'll be like Hex. I mean, sure, Hex retraced. It went down considerably, but not at its all time. I don't think it ever hit its all time low, even after the adoption amplifier did it.
So thank you for saying what you did, Rack. As I understand what you just said, correct me if I'm wrong, Richard Hart has the ability to come into this chain when the time is right and stage liquidity that essentially holds up the price by not allowing it to be bought, because as the chart's going up, if you're not pumping liquidity in at milestones, when people start selling, it just tanks right back down. But if you're pumping it full of liquidity at the right time, what would stop that is not enough resource. But what we're looking at is a man who actually has the resource to do that and the
And I
knowledge.
think that's right, Lid, and that's the key word is resources. You do not have the
Go ahead,
firepower,
KG.
nor does the network, to compete with the OA should it decide to start buying up its own supply through an interest-bearing mechanism utilizing other networks by a Trojan horse technology.
Like what you're saying about the Trojan horse. I really like this concept. I know you've been away for some time, but are you aware of this major ETH buy situation that happened from the connected sacrifice wallet?
I'm vaguely aware of it, yes.
Well, the FUD towards it is that, oh, this is not KG's position. This is just me telling you what's going on out there. Is FUD towards it is, oh, RH bought the top. He's a bad trader. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like, I don't know, $100 million or some big number like that. And my question is, what are your thoughts about him taking that large of an ETH position at, I believe ETH was $4,000? Do you think this is the start of your Trojan horse vision, or do you think this was maybe just not a great buy?
It was 600 million. It's close to 600 million, and I think he was probably buying for a little while. But yeah, it was a lot. Go ahead, Rack.
I heard there was an airdrop involved, and that was why it happened. But y'all have to correct me on.
What's the current yield on liquidity pools on Ethereum? Does anybody know?
Oh, I see what he's getting at. He's saying RH don't give a shit the price. He needs his resource to have the right interest-bearing accounts to be at the right staged position, so that when he executes his plan, everything's goes the way he wants. And that's exactly how he would do it.
You're correct, Lit. That's exactly. I've said it.
Fucking
20
Mensa
minutes ago. I said it an hour ago. That's yeah. There's no way he's not going to put his money to work for him. There's no way. He's got a team of attorneys. They're not going to let him money launder. He's not going to be accused of wash trading. I've said it 20 minutes ago. He's going to earn interest on his money. You take the interest. You buy up your own supply. If he has to deviate between Pulsechain and Pulsex, he's going to put it into Pulsex so that he can run up transactions, get more throughput on his network, and he's going to burn his own tokens as he does it. Come on, guys. You know he's going to.
This
Well,
this is
and in
why we're
addition,
here. This is what brought us all together. We felt this. This was in our future. Think about it. Who's here still? Who's still here? And who's going to benefit the most? You know who's going to benefit the most? The people who had the King Kong nuts to handle all the FUD, all the misinfo, all the stuff that was eluding. And I want to say the shakeout threw me for a loop. I have never heard of the shakeout, and it was very foreign to me, and it was very tough on me because I didn't understand, why are we shaking anyone out? We've onboarded. I just didn't understand it. And I have found in my evolution here, there's big dogs at work with big plans. And if you sit back and allow them to do their thing, and you just literally say, how can I help? That allows those individuals who are gifted, who have the amazing ability to smack their wrist and boom, create something epic. What do they need? They need an audience that's engaged, that shares the content, that says, I'm spending my night to work on this crypto project with these people. Well, why? Because it's fun, it's engaging. My brain's on fire. I'm excited. I'm developing. I'm making more money. I'm able to take care of my wife better. I just got a new kid. They're not going to suffer the way I did. There's so many things that happen when the individual user is enriched, but I'm learning there's a bigger picture happening here that not everyone understands. So the narrative gets lost. And I saw RH allow the narrative to get lost. And I wondered, why would he do that? And it now makes sense to me. I get it.
So, hey, brother, are you in numerology at all? Do you believe in
I
numerology?
yeah, I come from a mom who's an energy healer and a very spiritual woman. I learned a lot about it, and recently, the last year or two, learned about the gematria.
So if I told you that I'm a 22, so I'm a master builder, and then my other number is 8, so 2024, it's an 8 year. What's your like thoughts about that?
I think it's a really interesting concept, and I would love to try it as an experiment. I think I'm a 9, and that would be epic to try to see. Like, I wonder if we could calculate that. Hey, launch your project on this date, see if it does better. Hey, work with these people, try these specific numbers. Have you guys found that actually
100%.
break it down? Share
So
something.
like for me, like PTGC was born on 10/11/2023. So it was built on the 11th. So a number of that existence, if you add that all together, it's a prehistoric number. But also, like with X protocol, it was built on August 8th on the 10th of 2024. And then if you actually think about it, it's actually 888 if you put the all the numbers together. And then if you actually think about it, 2024 is the 8 year. And then also the founder, myself, is a 8. So like anybody can think about that and speculate on, but ultimately, like numerology is a thing. I'm just letting everybody know on this call. But what is going to happen in 2025? That's the real question.
You're saying
We know it's a bull market, so uh, in my eyes, I will be on. I'll be very honest with you guys. I I'm not a huge fan of numerology. I do know there's a lot of people that do that. I
Come
know
on.
multiple projects that have done it.
Come on, Steve. Come on.
I'm not, man. I mean, I'm a man of faith, and to me, honestly, that starts to tap into some things that I'm just gonna be. I'm just trying
Hey,
to be honest with you guys.
I'm a man of faith too, but ultimately I'm thinking outside the box.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, we're all out here doing everything we can, right? And I mean, we're literally in crypto, so
Basically, Rackham was presenting his plan, or his idea rather, with all this money coming through Pulsex and Pulsex being bought and burned and how powerful that is. But what a lot of people tend to forget is that Pulse itself is being burned, where it's like, it's the fork of Ethereum. And so ETH, Pulse, has the ability to be net inflationary or net deflationary. And that is dependent solely upon transaction volume. It doesn't matter if you're transacting $1 billion or a billionth of a penny. It's contingent upon the amount of transactions. So not only as the network gets more popular and people are doing their swapping on top of Pulsex, even if they're not using Pulsex, if they're just using Pulsechain in general, any other of the dexes, any other protocol, insert transaction here, PLS itself can also become, if it's not already, net deflationary, which is bullish for the supply of PLS. It's going down, or it can go down. So that's another positive benefit of the network becoming more popular.
100%, man. I mean, the most important aspect of it, I think, of any of the tokenomics that we have is the deflationary aspect of.
There's always big players that can move the market. So if we understand that and you fight that, you're going to suffer. If you work in alignment with that, you can crush. Most of the time, people don't know who the whales are. That's the norm. The norm is you have no clue who the hell the whales are, and at any minute they may dump, they may pump. You're along for the ride. We have a very unique community where we know some of the whales at the top. We're talking to the top whale right now, who just said what he said. So I see that and I realize this is an extremely unique situation that we can evolve it the way we choose right now. And all the resources are there. It's just how we choose to come together, how we work together, how we solve problems, and how we execute. And I would like to do anything I can to help. I really appreciate what foundation all of you have laid. I'm 4 years in crypto almost. Many of you are 13 years in crypto on this call, and you have a lot more experience. And I really appreciate each and every one of you. And I feel like the most important thing we can do as a community is open up honest dialect of how to smooth the tracks so that when RH makes his move, it's one cohesive community crushing it.
Lit. Think about this. In every movie you see, most movies, most books you read, whatever, there is what you call the hero archetype.
Break it down, bro. You're so rad.
The hero archetype, it's it's the same story over and over again. Insert any superhero movie you've ever seen. Insert any romance movie you've ever seen. It is the hero's journey in the same way every single time. If RH is the hero of this story, what's going to happen is right now he's going through and what always happens to the hero after the trials and tribulations of the quest, when he's at his lowest, when he thinks that everything is around him is shattered and there is no hope, there's that thing that allows the hero to have his rising phoenix moment. And it's only after the moment of the rising phoenix that the hero is in his final form, Super Saiyan 3 for my Dragon Ball Z fans. He is the Jedi only after the rising phoenix. And so if Richard Hart is on the hero's journey, then like what you're talking about, when that rising phoenix moment occurs, that's when the story really begins.
I couldn't have put that better. Can we map that and pump that? That is listen, when you think of Vitalik, what do you guys think of? When you think of Richard Hart, what do you think of? We have the ability to evolve that by how we assimilate, strategize, talk. And these big dogs in the room have big plans. That is so epic the way you broke that down. I would love to. Are there milestones where we could map it out logically and create an actual strategy? Because what do you have to do to stay relevant in crypto? It's not just like, seriously, what do we really have to do to stay relevant? Is it the tech? Is it the loyalty of the community? Is it the whales at the top? Like, that's what I want, long-term loyalty and the right people working together so that when serious players enter this ecosystem, they're like, that's a well-oiled machine. That is what we're on the precipice of. And you nailed it. It's the hero's journey, and we craft the narrative, we smooth the tracks, we work with the right people, and we systematically show stability. And what's going to happen once we do that? Green candles come. And that's when it goes crazy. And correct me if I'm wrong, I've only been here almost 4 years, but what I've learned about the whales in this ecosystem is they tend to pump RH ecosystem products, tend to pump towards the end of the BTC ETH cycle, where it's a little bit of an outlier. And what I've come to understand is if you have heavy resources on multiple chains, you might wait for a high. And if you care more about an RH ticker, you might take that high and pump it into your own. And I feel like that is something on the end of the sword, there's stuff in the middle, there's stuff in the beginning, and I'm really getting the idea that we are in the best place possible. I was right when I first started streaming. This is the best place in crypto, and that's just my opinion. It's not advice. This is just my understanding, because if you go into the jungle with a guide, you want someone who knows the jungle, knows the poisonous plants, knows the threats, knows where to not get you in a bog where you're stuck, or a tribal territory. That's what we have right now. We have people who've navigated these trails, and all the new people are freaking out. But people like Rack, people like KG, people here on this call, people like Steve, people like RH who are founded all this, they know these trails, and I'm the one catching up. And I'm just happy to be here, catching up to this incredible plan. So again, I propose to this community, offer support and have no ego, because it's not about your product, your project. It's about us as a chain elevating ourselves to be in the top 5 again. Do you remember what it felt like to be in the top 5 chains? Rising up the ranks was incredible. We can get there systematically the way Rack described it if RH plan goes to a chord where we start pumping, liquidity gets stuffed in, the price holds. There's not fresh supply on the market. It gets bought up. It's not allowed to circulate. That's what ratchets the price up to beers. When we see that happen, we have an opportunity to really do all the stuff we wanted, but I don't want to see what happened before, where everyone's ego popped up, everyone wanted to become the boss. I'm not going to control anyone, but from the bottom of my heart, I think the best thing we can do is let the founder be the hero and all of us come into support, because like Hart's Law, if that foundation rises, all the boats tide come with it. That's it.
Well, to explain about that, like what you're just saying about like kind of like a single player, like on a let's say like a basketball team. There's 5 players. You know, it's not just one person ultimately that comes into play. And if you really think about it in terms of pulse chain, there's I would say like Pulsex, Inc. All the RH tickers are one player, and then ultimately there's shooting guard, there's the small guard, there's the power forward, and then there's the center. And ultimately, every single individual needs to not needs to that will get the opportunity to shoot their shot. That comes into play in the ecosystem in a systematic way, and then also like brings prosperity for the whole ecosystem of itself.
Me and this is a whole community movement, and I think that's maybe the evolution of Pulsechain, is these founders who started fighting for their rights to actually exist on Pulsechain, because the whole community had a narrative of like a singular token on Ethereum. That was it. It was just Hex. Pulsechain made thousands of tickers. It was a nuclear bomb to that original singular minded community that only has to focus on Hex. So in that transition, a lot went up and down, and we have the opportunity to hyper focus, use absolutely all the smartest people community wide, and post it on Twitter. Here's our prototype. What do you think? What if some random person has an innovation on it? Some random dude with 30 followers says, hey, try that. That's what I want to see. And then the whole community is involved. I think that is the type of community that is actually inspiring. And then when you start hearing about, hey, this founder did that really good for the world, for people, for animals, whatever the hell it is, becomes the narrative writes itself. And to be honest, I think as we're all chatting, I'm kind of seeing Richard Hart coming back to streaming at a certain point when the time's right. And imagine him bragging about people in the community who rose up and handled professionally.
Is I'm going to go over here to this ecosystem where I know that I'm not only going to have community support, I'm going to have top down support at the highest level that crypto has to offer. When I look at base chain, I see such a high level of professionalism, community, and support. And I think that Pulse Chain can stand as a brand to embody some of what base chain is doing. They are doing incredible things over there.
That was beautifully put. And Rack, is it as simple as you working with RH, the Godwill getting involved? How simple is it? How complex is it to have top-down support on this network?
I would say with Richard Hart opening up and allowing me and obviously Godwell to just start bankrolling some of the expansion projects and adoption and the entire user experience from a central focal point and then marketing that focal point.
You tell me how I can help. I will raise the army. I will bring everyone I can. If we have top-down support, this gives us the ability to hold our heads so high in this chain. Because we've been through all, and now it's coming to fruition. This is beautiful. How can I help? What can we actually do to move the ball forward and execute?
I don't know what Richard Hart is thinking at this point. I know what I would do if I was him, but I don't know his covenants, his restrictions. I don't know what protocol he's having to follow as per his liaison's legal, representation. There's a lot of questions that would have to be answered. Um, just like I'm sure KG would tell you that he could probably do 100 different tasks or functions with his wallet, but which of those functions is beneficial? And then from those that are beneficial, which are legal, and then what's the protocol to execute them? Then you're going to deal with territorial restrictions based on, money, their spending limits, laws, restrictions. There's a lot of variables to this, and I will say, and well, I'll agree with KG. I promise you, Coinbase is aware of all of that, and they're adjusting accordingly. One thing Coinbase is going to do is they're going to set up to play the long game, and when they're done, Mr. Armstrong is going to build a monster. It's going to happen.
How do we prepare ourselves alongside that? It's the absolute move to stay relevant.
What did I tell you a year ago? What did I tell you 2 years ago? What did I tell you? What does Richard need to rely on? I've told you several times, Lit.
I think what I remember is that this is a timing issue. It has to do with legalities, and it's not going to happen until it can happen.
No, but who does he need to rely on a little bit? Yeah, well, my fiance knew the answer, and I haven't even had that discussion with her. He
I think
needs
he has
to.
to rely on the community to step up and organize itself so that he can not be the one putting out the plan. Right there's he can't. It needs to come from us. And then is that what it
He,
is?
yes, he needs to rely on his generals.
Yes, thank you. Needs to come from us. That's what I meant by grease the track, well-oiled machine. How do we set up the generals so that when that man pushes record, it's a
Until Richard comes to that conclusion, there's not much you can really do aside from what KG's doing. And independent parties are going to make their own projects. They're going to deal with their own resistance to market, their own barrier to entry on the Pulsechain network, depending on what venue that they're dealing with or what they're offering, the covenants and restrictions that come with the territory that they're moving into. But beyond that, if Richard wants to stay a one-man army for his own glory, there's not much you can do about it. But if he says, hey, I've got several generals, I have a very diverse community, and he starts to say, hey, I want to form a coalition, I want to make an organization where we have a board and we have a corporate structure, and we start looking at how we can work together, there's processes and things that you can implement that can make that happen.
Can I be a part of the influencer section where other people in the community get to have liaisons who understand law, corporate structure? We're not doing anything illegal. We're absolutely in the bounds of all legality. And the influencers can pick up projects that have been through all those vetting processes and really feel good about it. We need help. We need to know what's been vetted properly. And I've never even heard such a deep example of it, and I'm sure that's just the surface. But can we set up that type of an organization to? Is it just RH saying yes? Is it?
It's not going to carry any clout unless Richard kind of gives it the nod. And Richard's he's gonna default to whatever legal representation or business intuition that he has that's going to coincide with his vision. So the correct answer is I don't really know. I'm not saying that there's not a desire, or there's several people out there like you that would jump at the chance KG would jump in. Because he's going to represent Internet Money, the wallet. He's going to want to contribute to the overall wherewithal of the network, the vision that Richard's cast, and can you submit under that authority, but work as a team? And
Yes.
then, and you know what I'm saying? I'm not asking
Yes.
you directly. I'm saying, can everybody do that? But it comes down to, is Richard going to allow it? And that's the $1 million question.
What would be the best? Okay, I want you guys to know something. When RH unfollowed everyone, I'm a coach and I was doing a psychological test. Okay, everyone told me he had died, and I wrote, I like the hideous Eric Wall post, and RH said, dude, you guys, I see what post you like. Come on. So I was thinking, if that's true, is he alive? Is he watching us? So I like this hideous Eric Wall post. And then there's this dude with like 30 followers who says, whatever RH says is irrelevant now. And I liked the post and followed it just to see. And the next day, unfollowed everyone. I'm not saying that was me. But what I'm saying is, when I see the potential that he's sitting here watching every step, and when it burst into Lord of the Flies and a million narratives popped out, he's like, cool, that's interesting. Look what's happening. Meanwhile, he's doing his whole plan. My strategy is to coincide the two. Reunite the clans, allow the Lord of the Flies time to end, unite under a guided principle that comes from the top down. And I think that's the best way to use people's experience where they're good. I come from a small family business. My father always taught me one rule. You know what made me a good business owner? I said, what? He said, I saw people's strengths and I put them in that role. So my question is, how can we organize ourselves so that RH comes back and he says, hey, these guys organize themselves. They got little departments and that guy's good at that. And they got 3 people to cross-check them, and cool, I could work with that. I think that's the best way to present it versus not setting anything up and just blindly saying, hey, come support us. What do you guys think about that?
That's not lit. I'm not sure. I mean, give it some thought over time, and it might be something to the. I like I said, it really comes down to the way Richard wants to execute this. I believe he's temporarily under a gag order, not by a judge, but I think it's been requested and imposed by his legal representation. And when he comes out of that, and I think he's going to come out of it in the next couple months when they conclude this, that's the way I see it. It it's going to be interesting to see his approach, what he's thinking, how he's going to attack this. He's got he's not going to sit idly. It's not going to happen. I keep trying to tell people on this stream right now, it's not more about organization and a collective hive mentality as far as development and outreach goes. It right now, for everybody listening to me, you need to be looking at accumulation while you've got the chance. I mean, that's the bottom line, because if you can make more of a profit on the network as it matures, you have room to develop and innovate, to fund other projects, to invest in other altcoins on the network. That's the mentality you should be looking at for the next couple months. There's already innovators here, but everybody's waiting to see what transpires with the SEC. That's legitimately where we are.
I still think I think we got some confidence with Donald Trump being voted in, but I do still see and hear a lot of uncertainty, because while things are looking good for RH to win the SEC case, there is still a chance, as small as it may be in people's minds, that he loses. And then what happens if he loses, and what happens if he never comes back online, and all that. So I still think there is an element of uncertainty at large in the community. And I think that, Rackham, I actually agree with you completely on this point about the generals. Like, George
Yes.
Washington did not win the American Revolution because he went out and killed the entire British army. He had generals of all different perspectives, philosophies, religious views, who he always leaned on as his advisors, and together he bound with his troops and with the people he trusted most, and they won the war together. So, yeah, no one man, not even Neo, by himself, was able to defeat the Matrix. He had to have his trusted generals. No one man can do it alone.
But can things get worse? I mean, really, can things get worse? My life, can things get worse?
Can you clarify your question,
Yeah,
please?
well, I'm saying like people are talking about how good things can get. Like they've been pretty damn good. Like you can't really complain a whole lot. You can complain about your sacrifice, right? But there's been a lot of gains made and a lot of different moves throughout the chain. And the chain's growth has been if you were in Ethereum, like in the early days of Ethereum, there wasn't near the activity, right? Which that's kind of relative to a lot of chains. A lot of action was going on, but like the belief in the biggest like community was the hex community to begin with. So like what I'm saying is that Richard, through what's going on, everybody talking about Richard, and through everything that's going on, he's not even been around. And look where we've went, right? We as a community of Pulsechain and Hex and all the underlying coins that built off of it. Like, look what has happened already. Like, you don't have to have that. Even if the, like, the case is already shown that, like, 90% chance that Richard's going to win. I mean that maybe 96. I don't know what that really is, but it like there's really no case that's even been able to hold up. And if they drag it to the point that where all that changes, then it's definitely not going to happen. So everybody should be bullish about that. That shouldn't even be an issue, you know. And see, look what's happened with the negativity is what I'm saying. So look at what has happened with the possibility of the SEC saying yes, it's a security in this whole thing, and then oh my god, and you're really only talking about Hex anyway. I mean, what are you going to? You're not. What are you going to do? You if you could run Richard. And you can't take away that money. People got to understand that. Like Richard will go to Richard would go to prison, and that's not going to happen. But I'm just saying he could, and you won't take away the money that's on chain that's already transacting, that's creating this wealth for different people, and the growth of this chain that's happened in a very fast pace. So everybody should be like extremely bullish. I mean, my God, whoever said earlier about accumulating, that's all I've been doing, man. I'm telling you what, there's things that like there's opportunities out there. Like pay attention to the blockchain. Go, and then when you're excited about them, make sure this is something I tell a lot of people: go look at addresses and go look at holders and go find out before you get too crazy on stuff. Like, what's the chances of me getting like fully liquidated or anybody else, right? But I think as a chain, like if Richard comes out and like YouTube's, it's over. If he wins the case, it's over. Like everything's going to rocket. If you got liquidity in RH core tokens, if you got a token or you're like a lot of people up here are talking, they actually have their own tokens, obviously. A lot of them, maybe several, or people that are listening. Like if you have your backed assets, right? So half your liquidity, your backed asset is RH core tokens, and a lot of it, and it's thick. If he wins, then hey, you and all your holders are golden, and then you just keep holding until till euphoria. I mean, that's my opinion. You're all great.
I think
No.
you're right on. I think that's a new innovation that's come. I don't know how new it is, but I definitely clearly understand Hart's law a lot better. And what it is, it's the spreading of liquidity to different areas. So if you use a war analogy, it's like if you have 10 generals, you have a certain ratio and spread. If you got 100, it's different. So when you're tying liquidity pools to all these different things, if it's all tied into the core coins of RH, when you're in these alt systems and the main tokens get the boost, yeah, you can go parabolic on both, and that is the rising of the tides. And I think some of the developers have designed that way. Probably some in the room.
Something that I've been really delving into a lot on Pulsechain is the Atropa ecosystem and dysnomia. And so now Atropa has been fully developed, and then dysnomia is this kind of like secondary system that's like a sister system to Atropa. And one of the things that I'm really noticing is, one, not a lot of people are paying attention to it, and two, through this process and through interacting with the blockchain, you can create your own tokens. So there are these LAU tokens. So people are starting to make their own tokens where they're going to be hopefully bonding to tons of different tokens within the ecosystem. And the game at the moment is to really mint out your tokens and accumulate as many tokens in liquidity pools as you possibly can. So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to come up to speak when I heard Rackham talking about this, that the game is accumulation. So I think, I mean, in my opinion, this seems like one of the best ways that you can possibly accumulate right now. And I just wondered how many people are onto it, how many people are actually experimenting with it. From what I'm seeing, there's not a lot of people that are doing it. So it also represents a really ground floor opportunity. So yeah, I just want to know how many people have actually heard about it to start with.
I've heard about it, and I DM'd you, like, when was it? A month ago or something? And I said, hey, I'm having this random intuition that I need to connect with you. And it was about Atropa. I had this weird feeling, you need to learn about this and ask Steven. And I DM'd you that. Do you remember?
I do remember that. So I guess now I'm talking about dysnomia, actually. So the LAU contract. So Atropa is almost like complete, and I feel like so many people know about it. And I feel like a lot of people that know about it, I would say probably the majority of them are only knowing about it in the sense that I have X kind of token, let's say, for example, Teddy Bear, and I want it to go up. So it's really the same. They're looking at it in the same way that we've always looked at crypto, which is number go up. But the real magic is in the liquidity web. The real magic is in how many tokens you can actually accumulate. So if the whole system is bonded together and it's all, if just anything, like if Pulsechain all pumps, then the whole system all pumps because it's all interconnected.